Welcome back to California. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally an opportunity for the Integrity Ignite Series to once again get some road course racing in at the halfway point of the 2024 season. It's the 15th race of the championship hunt, and the Ignite Series heads to the virtual Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. Thank y'all for stopping by to get this one going. It is a championship fight that has slowly but surely become the story of two drivers. Braxton Deweese and Matthew Thunhorst have been head-to-head for the first half of this campaign. And tonight's a road course, so we might see some different contenders up at the front of the field. We know some of our usual suspects are due to be up there, and a matter of fact, the top three drivers you might expect are first through third in this qualifying session with 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Well, with that being said, we're about to get in the action. I'll be your host for tonight's broadcast. I'm David Kreutz, commentating and producing. As it stands, qualifying is about halfway done, and Justin Morton is at the top of the board. Morton's best finish this season to this point. Second place finish, he got it at Charlotte by 64 one-thousandths of a second. Braxton Deweese able to get his second victory of the season in that event. However, Morton able to make an impossible last lap charge up to the podium, even though he was outside of the top 10 coming into that 2-lap restart window. Morton able to make several positions up like it was nothing. And as such, Justin right now going to find himself at the top with Braxton Deweese up to second in qualifying over Matthew Thunhorst and Thomas Bresci. So Deweese looking to show his stuff here and maybe have his best ever road course run, finding himself now only 43 thousandths back on Matthew Thunhorst, and he's going to make it ahead of Matthew Thunhorst, as a matter of fact. The only driver he's behind is Justin Morton now. So like Braxton in a really good position to perhaps fight for the victory and get his first ever shot at a checkered flag at a road circuit. We'll see whether or not he can beat the likes of Thunhorst, Bresci, and Justin Morton, though. Don Stevenson currently finds himself in 5th, and Vinny Tigner is going to be coming around for his second lap. His first one puts him in 16th. Now, Vinny's going to be back on the way, looking for a second lap and an opportunity to make some more gains here as Tigner comes down and in. This Sonoma configuration is considered the Cup historic one on iRacing, comprising of 10 turns. However, this is the modern Cup Series configuration, including the slightly extended layout, so drivers going to be facing the full-on challenge here tonight, and Vinny getting himself prepped as it looks like Blake Cannon, for his first ever Ignite Series start, jumps up to 7th on his first lap. Cannon, a one-time race winner in the Octane Series, is making the double happen for the first time in his career. And it looks like now Vinny Tigner going to be coming across the stripe. After Tigner is done, we'll put the eyes, of course, of our camera on Blake Cannon and see what he's up to. Blake Gordon going to slot 9th. And his qualifying run is over after only one lap, so Gordon able to get a respectable 9th place lap in. Let's see right now, Vinny Tigner cracks the top 10 at the line. No gains for Tigner. He will stay in 17th. Now you're looking at Blake Cannon coming across the way. He's about half a second quicker than his previous lap already. And maybe now Cannon got an opportunity to fight for that pole. The 44 Cannon right now about 0.5 of a second quicker than his previous lap, but it all comes down to contact out of the final corner and hitting the tire barrier. I think Cannon's going to give up all his time in the last corner with a chance to get the pole. Blake Cannon, he's going to have to settle and ending up taking a much slower time. That was a 1:18.52. Blake, park it right beside the entry of turn 1. Chuck Sweeting now on the way. Sweeting getting himself up to 17th. 21 of the 24 registered drivers have taken times. Cal Filarski just joined. So it looks like now 25 drivers have registered for this session. Chuck Sweeting going to be making his way around on the number 75. One win this season and maybe looking for a breakout run at a road course here. 17th place, so still a ways to go. And he looks to be somewhat quicker than his previous lap, coming in at about 4/10 of a second faster here, making some gains as he goes sweeping back and forth, maybe most similar to the Circuit of the Americas opening sweeper portion, where Sweeting was a competitor in that event, and now putting the power down one final time into the hairpin. Sweeting will go, hoping not to make any contact there with the inside tire barrier, and it looks like should be good to go to make some major gains on this lap. Might put him in contention for a top 15 qualifying placement. Coming across the line, back to 119.4. That will be good for 15th. So he gets inside the top 15 on that final lap, and nobody else is on the circuit right now taking a time. Travis McQuistion finds himself currently on pit road, and so does Blake Gordon. However, no other driver has decided to go for an outlap. 21 drivers have completed their qualifying session, and only 4 drivers remain, those being Cal Filarski, Gael Brooks, Boomer Logan, and Travis McQuistion here. And Travis going to find himself in that number 93, the only driver which without a time to be on the track. Well, Gael Brooks is off of it. Blake Gordon flips and finds himself off the track. That's going to end his qualifying run. He has to head down to pit road. All the while, Travis keeps us waiting, and it looks like there's not much else to expect. Blake Gordon keeps on driving, but it looks like qualifying has concluded. And at the top of the board for tonight's Sears Point Grand Prix, it's going to be Justin Morton in the number 9. Gordon destroyed, Morton at the top of the board, and the pole sitter, well, he wins it with a 117.739. That's good for pole by 43 one-thousandths of a second. And once again, we've mentioned the up and up trend for Braxton Deweese. It will hold true again today. 5 minutes of additional warm-up. So before we get into the racing, let's take a look at your starting grid for tonight's event. On the top of the board, as we previously mentioned, it's the number 9 of Justin Morton, starting on the top of the board with a 117.739. Morton puts himself in to the pole position beside championship leader Braxton Deweese. Braxton has been the man to beat so far this season, and his only championship rival who's been a serious contender so far is right behind him. Starting in third place, it's going to be Matthew Thunhorst, and Thomas Bresci, 2-time race winner this season, much like Braxton Deweese, finds himself in 4th. Bresci making some gains to get up to 5th in the championship standings. However, still more than 100 points out for the driver of that number 24 until last week. Now he finds himself 87 back as he's ahead of Don Stevenson, who's going to start tonight in 5th. And 6th place goes to Rob Ackley, a driver with 1 win so far on the campaign. Blake Cannon is going to be 7th in his debut, and it's going to be Chad Mikas in 8th. Cannon might have had a little bit more speed in him to get inside the top 5 or even the podium in qualifying, but making that mistake on the last lap was all she wrote. Then it's going to be Blake Gordon in 9th on only 1 lap as well, and Jacob Fife to round out the top 10. 11th place on the order is going to be Cody Smith, and Cody Erdman is going to be in 12th, with Brian McFerrin 13th, Kyle Cooper in 14th, and Chuck Sweeting in 15th. Michael Stroll is going to be position number 16 with a 119.596, and Nick Tarbuck is then 17th. Vinny Tigner, position number 18. Brandon Bernhardt's going to be 19th, and Forrest Smith will round out the top 20. 21st is Alan Rawell, the final driver to take a time. Additionally, Travis McQuistion in the number 22 spot there. He's going to be the outside of row 11. Then Gael Brooks is going to be 23rd, with Boomer Logan 24th, and Cal Filarski the 25th and final driver in the starting grid for the Sears Point Grand Prix. 25 have registered, and only 1 can win as we head to the official midpoint of the championship. 50 laps are on display, and as we usually discuss in these road course races, the expectation is no full course caution. We should go from flag to flag without all too much trouble. As long as there isn't a major incident to start the race or anything of that sort, we will be seeing the race begin, and we'll have it count down lap after lap until the checkered flag falls. Don't expect much deviation of the strategy tonight if that is the case. However, we did see last season multiple outcomes. We saw some races that had all green flag action, and Guile Brooks looking to be the cause of a caution here in our warm-up session. We did see multiple cautions at Monza. We saw 3 to open up that night, and then we went all the way green, and Justin Morton, the man you're looking at on your screen right now, got his first career Ignite Series victory in that race. The reason being, he was able to play the alternate strategy nobody else was able to dedicate themselves to as well. Morton decided not to take one pit stop throughout the entire distance of that race. Nobody else opted to do that except for 2 drivers who were right behind, and one of which was Guile Brooks, and I believe with them that night was either Brad Patton or DJ Stagner. It was a very, very select few drivers who decided to go for that really risky maneuver, but it paid off for Morton, and he got the victory, so he knows how to work that alternate strategy if absolutely necessary. Now, hopefully for everyone's sake tonight, we don't really have to go to that extra alternate strategy. Hopefully going to get that green flag running in. 5 drivers have taken the time so far in this session, and this is going to be our 3rd road course race of the campaign. The last one we had was at Watkins Glen International, the first of which on the campaign, of course, came through the Circuit of the Americas, and ever since then we've been largely on the oval tracks. But Watkins Glen has been a no-doubt show-stopping event ever since we first came to it, and when it comes down to the entirety of the Integrity Ignite Series, we've gone to it twice now, and how about we talk about the last time we went to it here? We didn't mention it all too much, so we'll get a word in regarding that event. April 29th of 2024, the winner that day, well, it ended up being his 2nd win in Justin Morton. He didn't have any coming into the year until that point. Then he got his first, and now he could be looking for a 2nd. Hasn't gotten that first oval victory, though, and that has been the real Achilles heel of the team, executing on an oval. Figure out whether or not they can do that tonight. Warm-up has concluded. Bressie, the fastest driver in our final practice session, and as such, time to get the field lined up for a night of action in Sonoma. Now, before we get this one going, here's a few additional pieces of information about the track we're racing at tonight. This circuit is going to come in at 1.99 miles, so just going to be under 2 miles in length with 10 complete turns. This is the extended configuration of the track. The ambient temperature is coming in at 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and as it stands, the track temperature, it has skyrocketed up to 115 degrees. Expect that to get even warmer. Right now in the sim, it's about noon. It's about 12:41 p.m. exactly. However, we have our time system working at 2 speeds. So by the time this race ends, it might be 3 o'clock p.m. in the sim anyway. Going to give way to all sorts of challenges that drivers might have to face temperatures of over 125 degrees on the rubber in which they drive. Of course, 115 is already warm enough, but when you get slicker and slicker alongside tire degradation, it is not easy. One thing to note, though, when it comes to these Xfinity cars and most of the stock cars on the platform, tire wear doesn't usually seem to be a major issue in regards to the style of driving you see these drivers take on. So maybe they're going to be complaining about that a little less than you'd expect. We'll keep a watch of lap times and determine whether or not it's going to be a big deal. However, Justin Morton right now up in front knows one thing. He mastered it in Schuyler County last time we went to the Glen. He has a chance to do it all over again, starting from pole, hoping to be this year's Thomas Bressie. Bressie with 1 win at the road courses so far this season. He lost at Watkins Glen, which was an upset loss in itself. Only win at Dover, a track he might have not been pinned as the favorite, but he was able to get through and dominate the second half of that race just a week after what was admittedly a crushing blow to that team not getting the checkered flag in New York. As the field rolls through, the S's this time by. See the swerving back and forth, left and right. Tires are getting warmed up, and gotta be looking out for that strategy. It's going to be a full fuel cell, so maybe we're going to see some drivers go for the 2-stopper, which would be splitting it about 17, 17, 17. Just get you in we could see that one-stop strategy, which I believe, if these drivers played smart, is the winning strategy tonight. One pit stop at lap number 25 might just be the way to go. However, it's up to the field to determine what happens here. The first lap always sets the tone, so we're going to find out what happens as the iRacing official pace car dives off a pit road, this time by, and leaves Justin Morton and championship leader Braxton Deweese in control. Green flag and a fly this time through, with Morton down to the inside and Deweese right up top. Welcome back to Sonoma, California. Napa Valley has been waiting for its first opportunity at the Ignite Series, and here we go. Green flag is out in the Sears Point Grand Prix. Changes all around. The top five is going to be Braxton Deweese, who moves up to the race lead. Then Justin Morton in second and Thomas Bressie there in third. Top three going to shuffle up just a bit. Your posted are going to lose that top spot. And now all of a sudden, your championship leader Deweese once again looking for a good day. However, you might remember last time we went racing at the Rock, maybe not the best of days for Braxton Deweese. His championship lead slightly shrunk. He only has a 30-point advantage coming into the day, so it looks like for Deweese tonight is going to be a bit of redemption after what was a successful streak from Dover to the Rock. He was able to make up 30 points in total and now comes in with 30 as the lead. Let's see what he can do here tonight, though. Already leading his first lap and looking strong. Not really a road course competitor by trade, but the Allen's Art Images number 13 has come alive. And I'll tell you this much, Braxton in for a good run if he just holds it where it is. Of course, fighting against some of the most competitive drivers in all of this series history with Thomas Bressie and Justin Morton alike. They're right there with them. Justin Morton already eyeing a look down to the inside. Can't quite commit to it. Chris Deweese, and thank you for stopping by, and the entire Braxton Deweese fan club. I'm sure they're going to be on their way here because it looks like the 13 off to an early lead and looking to get that head start at the head of the field. Lap number 3 is his as we lead ourselves into the third lap. Now, looking a little bit further back, let's take a look at the battles going on throughout the entirety of the field. Right now, you see Blake Gordon with Don Stevenson, and Gordon is registered tonight in the number 48, which is interesting. He's usually our number 19, but the timing and scoring screen, you might have seen previously, has him as a completely different number for tonight's event. Now, Gordon, a driver who previously ran in that number 48, so looks like as it stands, the paint scheme might be incorrect, or the number in the regulations is. Gordon, though, you've seen that FedEx scheme right now trying to hunt down Don Stevenson. Hasn't quite gotten his move on yet. We'll take a ride on board for just a moment here and see what he can do as we head down to the hairpin. And thinking better of it right now, Braxton Deweese going to be the leader, and Blake Gordon right now gets a front row seat to all the action ahead of him, namely Don Stevenson there. And Don trying to back him off once again. It looks like Gordon's still not trying to find a way around with too much aggression, just hoping to force a mistake out of the 47, which hasn't gotten so far. Don been holding off as a defensive driver. We've seen him once again show his prowess. Chad Mikus is coming up, and Chad currently finds himself in 8th. Mikus came home with a surprisingly strong run at the Circuit of the Americas, which really catapulted his championship hunt earlier in the season, and now at this point in the championship schedule, even though he is still a top 5 driver, a big night here in Sonoma would mean an awful lot in regards to solidifying his position, one that he has not quite been able to lock down with all the fierce competition we've seen. Rob Ackley right there with him as well. So Ackley and Chad Mikus right now, the dark horses for the championship. If the top 2 were to fall out, these 2 will be the next on the lineup. Of course, everyone's setting themselves up for the end of the regular season, which we're coming up on very soon. And locking into the playoff system is the most important priority for all drivers here, as Rob Ackley comes gunning into the final turn, the hairpin all over again. See now how narrow these drivers cut it. So in the real Sonoma, California, there's been a bit of a change. The tire barrier doesn't exist in the same way that it used to, and instead there is an inside retaining wall where that hairpin currently resides. So you can't see drivers really cutting it that close any longer, because it's not like you're working with a little bit of a fluctuating barrier, because the tires could move as the race goes on. No. You are working with what they give you, and what they give you is a slab of concrete, and you really can't do much else with that. A little bit tighter as it stands for those drivers in the real world, but here in iRacing, you still have the luxury of cutting it deep if you need to. Now, of course, that has its strengths and weaknesses, so if we want to talk about a driver who's cut it deep previously, well, look no further than the man who is currently in 5th, in Blake Cannon. He finds himself 3.3 seconds back right now in your leaders, and even though he's not a proven face in this series, Cannon running very well, and he's actually made some gains relative to the fact that he started outside of the top 5. Cannon, as it stands, coming up from 7th on the board, and Blake looked fast in qualifying. Matter of fact, I think if all went well for him, he would have been able to grab that pole position. Now he's coming up on the tail end of this leading fight with Thunhorst and Matthew Thunhorst right there with Braxton Louise, both trying to get away, but I think Blake now has them in his sights, and he's not going to let go. That time by, running a lap that was about 1/10 of a second off your leader. A bit slower than Thomas Bresci, but he was quicker than both Thunhorst and DeWeese here, so maybe Blake going to try to go for a podium on debut. He was very strong in his Octane Series debut as well. Rob Ackley is in trouble and down a pit road, and you can see now with everyone being oh so tight to each other, Ackley is destroyed. No caution going to fly, though. It's a single car incident. Take a look back here and you'll see what happened. Ackley going into the first 2 turns here, looked to be alone, and he's gonna slam the retaining wall coming out of the final straight. Maybe a hardware failure. Rob was alone at the time of the incident, and now is on pit road, and it looks like he's out for the day. I mean, Rob Ackley, that was out of nowhere in all honesty. We're trying to find out, maybe it was something that he did inside the cockpit. Take a look. He brushed the inside wall and it shot him right back out. Tough break for Rob Ackley there as we get back into the full frame of things alive. Fortunately, that's going to be day done, and Rob finds himself dead last as a result. Braxton Louise has been passed twice so far, and as it stands, it's going to be your typical road course guys doing typical road course things. It is Thomas Bresci, who now finds himself in 2nd, and Justin Morton once again has reclaimed the race lead, so your pole sitter is back in front. The question more so becomes, what can he do from here? Bresci didn't have the strongest of starts necessarily, however, he made himself known inside the podium quick, and now maybe an opportunity to gain those next spots. He got Braxton DeWeese, 1 more to go, and maybe a chance to close in and seal the deal with Justin Morton coming right ahead of him. And the gap between the leaders now going to be 6.5 tenths.
Look at that. Thomas Bressi railing down the straight and trying to make something happen in the hairpin. Maybe not enough room, but drivers are considering their strategy from here, not only in regards to being aggressive, but also in terms of tires, and don't expect that to be off the drivers' minds all night long. You need to know your strategy before going in. And most drivers in this field were able to get over 20 laps of practice already, so they should be well accustomed to the fuel mileage. Here's Cody Urban fighting with Jacob Fife coming off the start-finish line. Fife up top. Urban is right down low, and it looks like Jacob gets the pass. Cody Urban going to be moved one spot back in a very fierce fight. This is the final spots of the top 10, mind you. Cody Urban now finds himself in 10th. Jacob Fife is in 9th. And Cody Smith, wants a piece of that as well. The two Codys have been running around each other the entirety of this race, at least so far. And it looks like they have not been able to separate themselves from one another. Coming down here into the final portion through the carousel. And Cody Smith going to go a little bit further wide. However, he should be good to go coming out of the straight. Right now, it's all about hitting your marks, and you don't have to be perfect every lap. You simply have to be very, very solid all throughout. A perfect lap at a road course, of course, is the big incentive for every driver, but very few drivers have the capability to go for it, and that's why we see such familiar names come up to the front of the field time after time after time. It's why you're seeing right now Thomas Bressi and Justin Morton, second and first respectively, fight again. They're your most recent two road course winners. Whichever way you slice it, they are the best of the best, and they know what it takes to be that much quicker than the rest of the field. But for the majority of the pack, it's all about hitting your marks and just being consistent, not really about being all too perfect. Just got to do the right thing for the majority of the night, even if it is not the best thing relative to everyone else. If you can just hit your marks and be consistent, not miss your lines, get the braking points down, you'll be on your way to a better race than about half the drivers in this field, no matter what. And one driver who might be facing a little bit of trouble, Cody Urban, going to fade back just a little bit more. He's going to let Kyle Cooper and Cody Smith go by. And as such, Cody going to find himself getting by Forrest Smith. The ailing Smith going to come out into the carousel section a little bit slower as he almost lost it entirely, but damage looks to be minimal, and the 15 is once again on the way. However slow, Smith should be able to recover and maybe gain a few spots back now as he gets back on his way, 6 seconds behind Michael Stroll and his pack. Stroll right now with Brian McFerrin, and Brian McFerrin with Nick Tarbuck, and so on and so forth until you hit Kyle Cooper there in 11th. And he's got Cody Smith right ahead of him in 10th, but not too much to worry about here for Cooper. He looks to be content with where he is, letting Cody Smith do a lot of the work in breaking down the drivers ahead and then taking what's left. Blake Gordon going to be coming up now on Chad Mikus. The gap between the both of them is going to be about 0.4 of a second here. And Chad able to make his way into 7th as a result of a quick thinking move. Gordon has lost some time here, but he stays right on the back bumper, relatively speaking. And always mention timing here at the road courses to be somewhat different. 0.6 of a second at a road course is much different than 0.6 of a second at an oval. 0.6 at Bristol is very hard to make up unless you're in the absolute perfect position on the track under green, that is. 0.6 at a road course could be made up in a moment's notice if the driver ahead of you makes a mistake. If you take the best line possible in a very tricky corner, technique means a lot more than raw speed of these road circuits. So 0.1 of a second aren't measured differently, but they have a different meaning, and you have to sort of play by those rules. Even if you lose a second or two, there's always a chance you get it right back in a few moments' time. While aggression might come into play, expect these drivers to be a little more patient, especially at the front of the field. Cal Filarski with some trouble, however, he'll hold on. Currently running in 21st over Brandon Bernhardt, Boomer Logan, and Alan Rawell. You'll see some drivers in the back of the field having specific troubles. Logan, who's had a much better season here in 2024 than he has 23, maybe not having the best of times so far at the road circuit in 23rd. maybe Boomer has a chance to keep making some time up here as he just keeps putting laps down, but he started outside the top 20 to begin with, and it looks like he still remains there at the start of this race, losing 7 seconds on his average pace that time by. Not the best of laps. His quickest lap so far is a 1:21.089. So we put him in the range of about the 20th best driver in Vinny Tigner, but the last few laps have been sort of disasters, admittedly, relative to his best pace. And it looks like currently coming apart, Boomer Logan is. As he's come across the stripe, the timing will tell us that was a 1:29.685, so he's making critical mistakes as another driver does. Forrest Smith is off of the track. And Smith looks to be done for the day. Here's taking a look back, 30 seconds for Smith and how he came to end his night. And we saw Forrest in previous troubles, and it looks like once again going to find himself off the track. The reason being, as he comes through into the same section before the carousel, goes wide and slams the wall, and he's going to call it quits. Second straight time he got through there like that, and Forrest Smith ends up done for the night. Calling it an event, the number 15 is Smith to be your second retiree. 12 laps in, out of 50 here in the Sears Point Grand Prix, and Chad Mikus now coming up on Don Stevenson, and this is the fight for 6th. Stevenson was previously with Blake Cannon, but it looks like Cannon has gotten away, and he's trying to get himself involved with that fight for the lead. Right now, Mikus knows he's got one priority, and it's the 47 now, who's put on a very good defense game, but might have to lose a spot here and give it up as the 44 has gotten through. Chad Mikus hoping to be the next to slip away. Rushing down into the hairpin one more time, hoping to outbreak the 47. Stevenson is going to let him go quite easily, and Chad Mikus makes his way into 6th. He's going to just gently apply the pressure and gets his way just like that. Only took him about a lap of work to get there, and the perfect passing opportunity comes right into the hands of the 25. Mikus is into 6th, whereas Blake Cannon is 5th right now, and he's watching ahead as it's Matthew Thunhorst and Braxton Uwais fighting for 3rd, and you know that Thunhorst desperately wants to get by that number 13 of Braxton Uwais to keep it as just about a dead even fight in the championship coming out of the day. Braxton has led a lap already, so he has a bonus point in that regard. Did not get the pole. Justin Morton barely able to squeak through and get that over the 13. However, Thunhorst with no bonus points right now. Positions are all he can ask to gain. And with Thomas Bressing and Justin Morton coming up at the front of the field, well, it looks like they're doing that much better. Chris DeWeese in the chat room once again. Great to have you here. It's been a pretty good evening here in FTN, and we're just getting started with another exciting racing week. The Iora Cup Series finale comes this week, Thursday night at the Homestead Miami Speedway. All drivers are free to enter. It's the Xfinity cars of the Homestead Miami Speedway for what I believe is going to be a 200-lap spectacle to determine the 5th Iora Cup Series championship winner. James Thurston is the only defending, or rather previous title winner to be in the running. Defending champion Sean Conklin has decided to no longer defend his title, and Daniel Mosteller is out of the running. It is Page versus Thurston. The gap between both of them is 2 points coming in. It's going to be head-to-head on Thursday nights. Doug Middendorf from the chat room, thank you for stopping by as well. Right now, Braxton Uwais has been fending off Thunhorst quite well so far. The gap between these two drivers in the points, once again, it is a total of 30 with 15 races to go. Braxton is to be able to string himself out as the championship leader for the first time this season. He's had a multi-race lead, which stretches back to breaking the tie at Dover, and now holding himself as the lone championship leader. Like Braxton getting very accustomed to that position and putting in the work to keep up with the competition. He's there in 3rd and has been ahead of Matthew Thunhorst, holding him right behind for the better part of 15 laps. Into the hairpin again. Well, you see Thunhorst almost looking, but one driver looking down at pit road, that is going to be Boomer Logan. And Logan, who's going to be a lap car, decides to come down and in this time through. That's rather early. So we'll see what the 94 is planning as Boomer decides to drop in. Hopefully it's not a retiree, and it looks like it is not. So Boomer going to go down to pit road before anyone else at lap number 14. Just like that, we move on to 15, and still no other driver has shown a sign of going in. Looking out for two potential strategies tonight, one of which would be that two-stop strategy, which would come into effect in the next 2 or 3 laps at 17 and 18, then going until about lap 33, lap 34, then going to the end. The ideal strategy, which might not be possible for every driver, is going for the one-stop strategy, and that would be 25. Get there to your first pit stop and go all the way to end it off. So as it stands, we're about 15 laps into this stint, potentially the halfway point, potentially moments away from seeing some drivers decide to break in, and Justin Morton has broke out. He finds himself now the leader by a total of 0.8 of a second, the biggest gap he's had all throughout this race, and Matthew Thunhorst will not leave Deweese alone. Down to the inside, Matthew has been able to find some racing room to slot through. And it's going to be now Thunhorst into third. Braxton Deweese going to lie back and find himself in the 4th spot. And just like that, the number 8 looking to make it 2 consecutive weeks. He gets the jump on Braxton, and hopefully going to carry it through till the end for his sake. Braxton has just been that much more consistent ever since Dover, where he got the championship lead. It was that dry spell for Thunhorst from Talladega to Watkins Glen that really set him back. Texas to Talladega to the Glen was the worst stretch of the season for Thunhorst, and that's really what set him off the course. He's been able to rally back just a little bit more, especially from Charlotte onward, Charlotte to Rockingham to now, but he needs to keep on executing if there's any chance, because if it weren't for what was an admittedly very good recovery at Rockingham, Deweese would have about 40-plus points on him, which, of course, would have been ideal for Braxton, but I think for Thunhorst, it's a bit of a saving grace to even have a chance to still be within 30. Coming across the line, yet again, Morton, Bressie, Thunhorst. They're all going to be running nice and easy. Well, how about we look at a bigger pack, and it's a gaggle of drivers, and it's going to be Cody Erdman leading Chuck Sweeting, Michael Stroll, and Brian McFerrin. Next Gen in the chat, thank you as well for tuning in. You've just gotten in it when we're getting things closer and closer to our pit cycle, so stay tuned. We've got a ways to go from here. The night is young, and we've really only just begun with some of the fiercest road racing in all of iRacing here. The Ignite series is not going to disappoint you, so hope you stick around for the foreseeable future. Chuck Sweeting goes up high. Can't quite get the pass there on Cody Erdman. Erdman running the 51 today, and you might remember last time we went racing, it was Rockingham, and that is where Tom Wetmore made it through. Wetmore was able to come home in the 4th position that day in his first and only start of the season. He went for a pair of 4ths that week, able to get a 4th place finish in the Octane Series as well. Quite the consistent driver Tom Wetmore is, but he's handed the reins back to the Cody Erdman crew for the 51. Erdman has returned, and he's done a pretty good job so far in 13th, getting muscled around the track admittedly, just a little bit more by his competitors like Kyle Cooper and Cody Smith. He was inside the top 10, but that he is no longer, so Cody might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, at least for the time being, and maybe there's a chance for him to gain as the race progresses to get back to where he previously found himself. Of course, at a road course, you can't be too unhappy with the top 15 finish. It's simply more challenging to keep up in a lot of instances, and when you know who's fast, it's 5 or 6 spots that are almost entirely taken away. This is an Xfinity League for those who are joining in for the first time. Today is the Xfinity Series Ignite Series, and then we have the Gen 4s with the Octane Series. So we have 2 options here in the Integrity Racing League, and on Monday nights we get the Xfinity cars going. Tomorrow we will see Gen 4s come to play. Bundle of 3 right behind Justin Morton, and it looks like now Matthew Thunhorst is smack in the middle. He's got Braxton Weeks coming up on him, and he's got Thomas Bressie to keep on pressuring. How about we take a look on board with Matthew Thunhorst here and see exactly what he does. It's about a half a second between your men from second to fourth. A very close bundle. It looks like Braxton Deweese now looking down to the inside. Can't quite get that quarter panel in there for maybe a little bit of a tap or maybe a little bit of movement out the way. Thunhorse is going to hold firm in third, and he'll come across the stripe once again inside the podium places. Now, Sonoma, California, I'm sure much more exciting in person, and an interesting race we saw. An interesting race weekend, as a matter of fact. You saw Shane Van Gisbergen getting his second career Xfinity win after getting his first at Portland, and Kyle Larson just getting the word that he would be allowed to compete for the NASCAR Championship after racing at Indianapolis, winning again in Sonoma. And Larson proving to be one of those versatile drivers I think we're going to see a lot more of as the years pass. And, of course, Shane, one of those drivers we expected to see perform very well and ushering in almost a generation of supercar drivers that we aren't really familiar with over here in the United States. And that's going to change up the level of competition drastically. I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming over and definitely changing the way these road courses look. You might remember, if you're an older fan of the sport, the road course ringers. Boris Said is an iconic example. He raced this weekend, of course, for Hendrick Racing, but previously in his career, he was a driver who only showed up for those races to substitute in for a team that needed to keep driving, but their main guy simply was not fit for road course competition. Thomas Bressing in a slide high, and he's going to give way to Matthew Thunhorst and Braxton Deweese. Thomas down to fourth. And for Bressy, that's not a good look, especially given the fact I think he expects a little bit more out of that car week in, week out from these road courses. And sliding back like that, well, it's a good thing that he didn't end up in a wreck, but definitely not as much confidence with the car as he'd like. And he's going to tiptoe around the first sector of this circuit to get himself back in order, as it's the number 13 of Braxton Deweese who gets back inside the podium. And now Matthew Thunhorst is going to gain. He's going to move up to second here and might be the prime competitor to our leader in Morton, as Bressy again is loose. Thomas can't be too happy about that one, as he is sliding throughout this entire lap. Bressy having a bit of a struggle, but it looks like he'll get himself back going again. Now Braxton Deweese going to keep his eyes on the man ahead in the number 8 of Matthew Thunhorst. Thunhorst got that position about 5 or 6 laps ago. He's held it ever since, and we're coming up on our halfway bonus here in the Ignite Series. Now, every time we get to the halfway, bonus points are going to be delivered to these drivers, and we don't have stages necessarily here in the Ignite Series. Instead, it is going to be the first half and the second. Points are awarded in between, and of course, the race win means the most. No stage cautions as well. This is clean and green unless absolutely necessary. And the best part is, most often, well, it isn't necessary to see a forced caution here at a road course. So expect these drivers to remain where they are and keep on pushing as the fight begins now. Cody Erdman going to drop back to Michael Stroll. That's going to be Erdman moving into 13th. And it looks like Stroll, the AC Delco Chevrolet, back again to its traditional look, gets through for 12th. Looking for a stretched take on the two-stop strategy. Chuck Sweeting down and in after 20 laps. So an interesting outcome for the number 75. Sweeting is going to come in just before the lap 25 marker, and he does not look like he's going to make it into his pit stop at the right angle, but he'll still get service nonetheless. And Chuck going to make his way through after 20 laps. Keep in mind, the magic number for tonight looks to be, for the leaders anyway, 25. And I think right now the goal for those drivers up ahead is to hit that number 25. We're going to see Blake Gordon. Is he out of fuel? No, he's just going to end up very, very out of sorts and dropping back into 15th for Gordon. Bad news, as the number 19 ends up losing several positions at once. It's going to be Blake Gordon now dropping down to the 15th spot. 9th coming into the lap, he has lost 6 positions, and it looks like getting loose in a similar vein of Forrest Smith is going to cost him nearly half of his track position all at once. So, Gordon is going to decide to stay on the track no longer. He will make his way in, and the 48 has decided to drop through after 21 laps. So another driver going to hit the number and go down in a little bit earlier than we expected. Here comes Justin Morton, who finds himself the leader with 8 tenths behind Matthew Thunhorst, and Braxton DeWeese is in third. 1-2-3 combo, 22 laps in out of 50. And Morton still has himself the advantage. It looks like right now, Matthew Thunhorst, while he does have a little bit of pressure right behind him, has been able to maintain the position with relative ease. You got to wonder right now, though, are these drivers at the front of the field really pushing full on? I would admittedly doubt it, especially for the top 3. They might be getting themselves into a rhythm right now just to go lap after lap after lap to get to that 50% marker and then push once again. Thomas Bressi, though, is going to need to really push hard when we get around because he's now 6 seconds behind. And matter of fact, Chad Mikas is coming up to him, and Bressi, who looked oh so good to start this race as high as second, now dropping back to 4th and finding himself in a real tight spot as Cal Folarski. Well, he ends up slow and coming through the early portion of the track through 1 and 2. He's up high and getting passed by the leaders rapidly. Thomas Bressi would be up next to get him, as it looks like Cody Erdman decides to come down to pit road after 22 laps. We're up to lap number 23 for the leaders, and now 2 laps away from what looks to be the magic number 25. Looks like they're tightening back up to Justin Morton just a little bit more so. It looks like Morton's going to have to worry just a little bit more about what's going on behind him, and that slight focus on what's going on in the rearview mirror might change the way he looks at it, but shouldn't be all too much in regards to his perspective because he knows what's ahead of him is still much more lap after lap, trying to put down the pressure. Both now, Matthew Thunhorst and Braxton DeWeese doing a good job of just that, but there's no signs of coming into pit road, so I think it's going to be a bit of a stalemate. Time we get back at it again, we'll be out of pit road after our first cycle, and now Justin Morton going to get a good run off the corner. Matthew Thunhorst going to falter ever so slightly, and Braxton not able to take advantage. Set ourselves up for the 24th lap. So far, Justin Morton has been the dominant man in the early stages of this race. Morton has held control, and he has been able to do so quite nicely, even though tire degradation has indeed played a major factor. So last time by for Justin Morton, he ran a 121.649. Compare that to his best lap, a 118.53. There is definitely a difference. So today, it's not going to be possible for the drivers to get away with the no tire wear, so to speak. Instead, they find themselves feeling it in spades. Let's talk about that track temperature. It's 118 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is still slightly getting warmer, so I can't imagine it's going to cool off anytime soon. Expect the 120s as Thunhorst is really loose, and the 8 machine's going to have to give up a spot. Braxton DeWeese gets the forced error. He stays out on the track, and Justin Morton comes down and in 1 lap before the confirmed magic number. It looks like he's going to go for a shorter first stint and a longer second. The undercut is on for Justin Morton. New race leader, Braxton DeWeese, at the beginning of lap number 25. Braxton now with a new opportunity at the head of the field, and we'll see what he does with it. I can't imagine he'll go longer than 2 laps from this point. So, in a tricky spot, Braxton DeWeese is here because he's now got himself the race lead, but his competitor is going to be on a warmer and more ready, shall we say, tires when we get back to the full-on cycle. I think for Braxton right now, he's just got to keep it together, and you can see he's going to slide there, much like Matthew Thunhorst did. This might be the call to get back into pit road and do so immediately. Braxton trying to make his way around one final set of turns, getting through the S's, making it to the hairpin, but instead taking the normal hairpin turn. To slide his way through and eventually dive into pit road all on his lonesome, unless Thunhorst decides to go right with his there an opportunity here for Thunhorse to break out of line? No, because both drivers decide to stay on the track. And here we go again. It is going to be the second half beginning with Braxton Weiss getting the bonus points and Matthew Thunhorse looking for the bonus points as well, locking them down. It's DeWeese coming through with 25 laps remaining. DeWeese is going to go way wide, and so does Thunhorst, but it looks like Matthew's going to get a better run, and he finds himself not able to make the pass. The elevation shifts back and forth, make it a little more uncomfortable for drivers to go for risky moves. It's not like Watkins Glen, where you know exactly what's going on. It's the up and up, and then you stay there, then you go down just a little bit more. It is fluctuating back and forth all throughout Sonoma. A little bit of up, a little bit of down, and a little bit of that toss and turn left and right. And right now, both drivers are definitely suffering from it. Cody Smith and Blake Cannon came through this time by. And now it's going to be DeWeese and Thunhorst with the opportunity to go in next or try to go a little bit longer. They have made it to the magic number, and so long as they run the first stint equal to the second and vice versa, they should be able to make it to the end of the way without having to go for one other pit stop. Coming down this time by, it's going to be a run into pit road led by Braxton DeWeese. Braxton, Thunhorst, first and second in. Chad Mikas calls through, and Thomas Bresci, he'll have to do something different if he wants a chance at the win. It looks like he'll have to stick with the same old, same old. Bresci not in a good spot to go for the checkered flag now, as he is going to have to comply, and Don Stevenson makes it in as well. Jacob Fife, the call for Fife is to go in, and it looks like, yeah, everyone stretched it to wit's end to get to this point. 25 really ended up being the magic number, and everyone comes in at the beginning of lap number 26 and 27. No chance to get back out there without risking it big time. Braxton DeWeese going to be cycling up with Justin Morton. No, Morton has the lead by a long shot here. 5, 6, 7 seconds by the time Braxton gets back out on the track. I don't know if 2 laps of tire is good enough to get back 7 seconds, at least naturally speaking. Justin would have to make a flurry of mistakes. Braxton DeWeese, he's going to have to work for it here. I think Morton's lead is in real good hands. It's a really tricky position to be in right now if you're Braxton DeWeese, because Justin Morton just got the pit stop of a lifetime. And I think the question really becomes from here, what can you do if you're Justin Morton? Looking at the opportunities on the table, I don't think there's much else you have to do besides, as we always say, hit your marks. But tire wear is becoming more and more evident with the track temperature continuing to heat up. It's going to be difficult for drivers to make the right decisions at the right times now, although I think Morton, with that undercut, understood exactly what he was going for. This is exactly what he needed. These first few laps shouldn't be too hard for him, but then from there, the difference will be clearer and clearer and clearer. And with 23 laps to go here, it is still a long way from the checkered flag. Morton's got to think this one through and make the right choices, especially when dealing with the remainder of the traffic ahead of him. It won't be a clear track from this point onward. He's going to be seeing a multitude of cars until the very end. Now, as a result of what we just saw, we're going to see a little bit of a breakup throughout the entirety of the field, and drivers getting themselves set up once again to go at it. There's Chad Mikas, Matthew Thunhorst is going to be third, and Braxton DeWeese is in second. Justin Morton, the man who leads the way. 23 laps to go this time by, and as always, with 22 laps to go upcoming, we're going to crank it up with the best cameras on the iRacing platform, TrackCams22.com. For high-quality iRacing cameras used by the best broadcasters in the business, there's no better choice than Track Cams for gourmets. The best broadcasters choose the best cameras for good reason. Check out Facebook.com/TrackCams or TrackCams22.com after tonight's broadcast, and we will return after cranking it up with 22 laps to go, courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com. Justin Morton now finds himself the leader by 5.2 seconds. It's still a considerable lead over his rivals at the head of the field. However, Justin now finds himself a little bit with a smaller gap, 17 laps to go. Welcome back to the Sears Point Grand Prix. As it stands, it's only going to be a total of 16 drivers on the lead lap. It's a smaller bunch than before, and Matthew Thunhorst is slowly but surely trying to make his way up. Braxton Weiss going to give up that spot once again to Thunhorst, and it looks like Matthew a little bit better with the short runs, or the immediate runs, shall we say. He got the jump on Braxton the previous time around, and even though he gave that lead up just before we got to the halfway marker, Braxton definitely going to be an opportune driver. If he gets an opportunity to slide through, I think he's going to take it. And if the opportunity does present itself, don't expect this number 8 to shy away from making it known. 17 laps to go for Matthew Thunhorst and Braxton Weiss and all others who are trying to make their way in. How about Chad Mikus? I think he's one of the most impressive drivers this season, simply because of the turnaround he's had from what we saw in 2023. He has become one of the most consistent drivers race after race, year after year. Of course, he's been a veteran of this group for a while, but the Integrity Ignite Series as a whole, quite new. And when we talk about the seasonal championships, well, we've only seen ourselves 3 seasons, 2023 A and B and 2024. The standings, of course, are going to show a much different story for a driver like Chad Mikus, so let's tell that story right now while we've got the time. The first season, the championship that DJ Stagner got, and 2023 A, Chad Mikus was a driver who, of course, found himself in the mix. However, he was 39th in that season, only having 6 starts made. Then we go on to 2023 B, where it was Alec Daffin who came home with a championship after an incredible late season surge, and he became the man of the hour. A fantastic drive it was from Daffin. As unexpected as it was, he really showed everyone what it took to become a champion, especially with the current playoff formula that the Integrity Ignite Series holds. For Mikus this season, it looks like it was a little bit better. He was the 12th best driver overall. He came through with 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s in total of 15 races. So this is a comparable stretch. We're looking at 3 top 10s and, of course, 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s as the marker to beat. So looking at Chad Mikus so far, we have seen overall definite improvements, 6 top 5s and 10 top 10s, and this will be the 7th top 5 in a 15-race stretch. It's obvious that Mikus, in this 15-race stretch, this is his best 15 in the league, and he's only getting better, it appears, as he finds himself in 4th right now. Might not be able to creep his way up inside of the podium, but it is another run to be proud of if the 25 comes home and gets the job done here in the 4th spot. He has continuously shown that improvement, and I think that's one of the best things about seeing this series develop and expand. Drivers who you might have not expected to see become contenders as it all went down to begin with, well, Chad Mikus has become someone to keep a watch out for. He is currently 3rd in the championship, and he's been battling toe-to-toe with Rob Ackley for that accolade. He currently finds himself only 7 points ahead for it, but a night like this, where Ackley is out of the mix and Mikus is firmly inside the top 5, it looks good for him. And it looks like there's an opportunity to keep on gaining, maybe to get up to Braxton Weiss or Matthew Thunhorst if they make a mistake. Don't count Chad Mikus out. He is the best he's ever been, and it looks like he's only getting stronger. Don Stevenson right now coming up on Thomas Bressi. Let's get a look at multiple angles in this battle live on FTN. Of course, we're going to get you a little bit of extra action courtesy of our friend Thomas Bressi, who's brought us the picture-in-picture action for quite a while here on the network. Let's get it all shown right now. Bressi in the number 24 finds himself inside the top 5, but maybe not the best of runs in that number 24. And you can see what's going on inside the cockpit as we speak. Bressi right there in the Exalta Chevrolet just ahead of Don Stevenson, and you'll see at the bottom right of your screen a faint white blip in that virtual rear view. That is Don Stevenson, who's been chasing him up and down these hills back and forth. On the bottom right of your screen is the onboard cockpit of Thomas Bressi, and the main broadcast feed shows the battle, particularly focusing here on Stevenson, the man who is pursuing Bressi and trying to lay down the law, put down that pressure, until push comes to shove. The 7 right now is Stevenson, of course, got a ways to go, 0.8 of a second back. So maybe not quite the perfect opportunity to make a move just yet, but he's doing a pretty good job of just keeping it there and waiting for an opportunity. We're going to keep our eyes on this battle as it continues to progress. However, let's take a look throughout your top 10 as it stands from top to bottom. Justin Morton's going to find himself the race leader now by 4 seconds. Matthew Thunhorst is made up about half the ground he needs in about half the time. So it's going to be a very close battle between he and Thunhorst. Morton right now, leader, Thunhorst second, and championship leader coming into tonight, Braxton Nuis, there in third. Chad Mikus is going to be fourth, and Thomas Bressy's in fifth, with Don Stevenson sixth, Jacob Fife in seventh, and then Blake Cannon, the debutant tonight, he's the rookie of the race, in eighth. Nick Tarbuck is ninth, and Cody Erdman's been able to rebound to get inside the top 10, but we'll put particular focus on 16th place Cody Smith and Next Level Racing. We'd like to thank Next Level Racing for providing high-quality sim racing performance products for dedicated sim racers who deserve nothing but the best. For more information, visit nextlevelracing.com after tonight's broadcast, and we'll return after these brief messages from Next Level Racing. Justin Morton finds himself your leader with 11 laps to go. Welcome back after a brief Next Level Racing promotional break of the day. Now the rest of the coverage are going to come at you uninterrupted here on FTN. Morton, Thunhorst, and Deweese are the 1-2-3 combo that lead the way, and currently they've done a real good job of keeping themselves out in front, but I think it's now Justin Morton who's got the pressure on him. Currently, Matthew Thunhorst still trying to make time. I don't know if he's quick enough, though, to get all the way back to his leading rival in Morton. I think the undercut was the strongest move of the day and would be the winning move of the race if it all plays out as expected here. He's got 38 tenths, or now an estimate of about 35 tenths to go with 11 laps remaining, and we're coming down to 10. Matthew Thunhorst would have to be at least a third of a second faster every lap from here to even have a chance to catch up. Realistically, he'd have to be a half of a second faster for every lap from here to get there, catch up, and then put a fight. And I don't think he's that quick right now. He was about a quarter of a second faster that time by, which is not a marginal distance by any means. That is a considerable gap. He's taking out of it, but he does not have 50 laps any longer. He has 20% of that. He has 10 laps to go. You have to race like you got 10 laps remaining, and I'm sure right now Matthew Thunhorst understands as good as anyone this could be another great points day, and that might be all it ends up being, which is fine for most drivers, and it will be great for Matthew Thunhorst. Given the circumstance, being ahead of Braxton Weiss means a lot more than being ahead of Justin Morton. Morton, quite frankly, is not a championship contender in the same capacity. If you take a look at Morton right now, the championship standings, he simply is not. He is in 21st. He only has 8 races under his belt, and even though one of them is a win, and he has been solid this season, I just doubt that there's a reason to really chase after Morton unless you have the pace for certain. And of course, I don't think it's going to be an easy one to give up for Matthew Thunhorst. I doubt that he's going to stop trying. But I think right now, weighing out the priorities is going to come into play that much more. We are 15 races into the campaign. This is not the championship race just yet, and Morton is not driving away for the title. So we'll see how the attitude plays out for Matthew Thunhorst. That time by, he was once again about a 10th and a half quicker. He's faster. There's no doubt about it. Just simply doesn't look to be quick enough to get there. Looking at track conditions, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. We have gone slightly back down, so 115 is going to be the number. We went a little bit further up, about 120 in the middle of this event. However, now timing and scoring shows us it's about 2:30 in the session, and the track temp is once again coming slightly back down to earth. Jacob Fife is going to get by Blake Cannon. That's going to be the move for second, and you can see he's also going to bring along with them Nick Tarbuck. And Nick now may be looking for an opportunity to make a pass in his own right. Let's see what Tarbuck can do as the number 29 is now looking on. The debutant in Cannon finds himself coming through, getting to the carousel portion, right behind Fife. And Blake looking for a top 10 on his debut. That would be a fantastic run for the 44. And I doubt Nick Tarbuck's going to make it easy for him to keep 8th, but it's going to be hard for him to lose anything more than that. Yeah, Matthew Thunhorst just lost a 2.5 seconds on that one, as it looks like he got involved with a lap machine in Brandon Bernhardt. And we're going to take a look back with an instant replay here, because that might have been the deciding moment of the race. Brandon Bernhardt, the 81, slows down immensely, as it looks like coming out of that final corner, he dives out of the way. No, so there's no contact there. It just looks like Thunhorst had his own independent trouble. Yeah, it looks like Bernhardt did the right thing in that case, and Thunhorst got in his way. Either way, Matthew lost about 2 seconds on that lap alone, and he is now further back in pace and further back in time, which is bad news. With 8 laps to go, the gap is once again reset to 4.5 seconds with 8 laps remaining. And the home stretch is here for Justin Morton. He's just got to hang on and stay calm in this situation. He's still got a lot of time to just keep himself in this position. Lap after lap, hit those marks. He's only got a total of now 70-odd turns to make until he comes home in victory lane, if he just stays in the position that he's been in all throughout this stint. The top 5 of this stint have remained solid. Might change, though. Look at Don Stevenson. Stevenson is now 0.6 of a second away and might be able to make a jump here on Thomas Bressi. Coming in, can't get there. And now Stevenson trying to put down a little bit more pressure on Thomas Bressi indeed. This will be the fight with about 7 laps to go as Bressi comes across the line. Still just ahead, but not going to be easy here. Don Stevenson is right on the back bumper. A few other close battles are going to include right now Jacob Fife, who's going at it again with Nick Tarbuck. Blake Cannon got by and is going to leave Fife once again in the dust. It looks like now Jacob's going to have to fend off against that 29 for his own, and it looks like Tarbuck has the pace to make it a little bit more challenging. So here comes Nick Tarbuck coming around this time by in that 29, going to lay the bumper on a Fife, but that's going to send him wide. And it looks like that move of aggression actually going to hurt Tarbuck more than it gets him anything. Now Jacob Fife gets back on the move in 8th, and his next priority might be to get back up there to Blake Cannon, take the spot back. Don Stevenson is still looking at Thomas Bressi, has not been able to make something happen. He's still eyeing him. And the prospect of making the pass, it's really a now or never circumstance. If he comes across here with 6 laps to go, well, you gotta understand 6 laps remaining means there's really only 10 or 15 good opportunities to make a pass. The hairpin is one of the best of which. Maybe you can force a mistake out of that first corner, maybe force something through the S's and the carousel. It's all circumstantial though, and if you can't line up your timing right to even get to that point, that's another opportunity you lose. Stevenson's got to think fast about this one, especially given the fact that Thomas Bressi admittedly not running his best road course race. It could be a chance to get a spot out of someone who isn't the most confident relative to what he's used to. Here's a ride on board again with Stevenson as he's getting closer to Thomas Bressi. Running very similar times as of late. Don Stevenson most recently ran a 120.404 and Thomas Bressi ran a 120.368. And Don Stevenson right now has to figure out exactly what he's doing here, because while he's close, it looks like right now he actually isn't gaining as much as we anticipated. Like with 5 laps to go, coming across the line once again, Justin Morton is still your leader. And ever since that bobble from Matthew Thunhorst, he has remained consistent, and the threat to lose that top spot might be out of his sights. And all of a sudden, ever since the first 10 races where we did not see any repeat winners save for DJ Stagner, Thomas Bressi able to get his second victory, then we saw Braxton Weiss get it, and he was able to put Justin Morton in second on the night. He got his second victory, so Morton now looking for his own redemption, and tonight it looks like he could be another driver joining the multiple wins club. It's the exact opposite of the Integrity Octane series. The parity in this series has been incredible. We've only seen 4 winners in the Octane series, where so far in this campaign, seen ourselves quite the great list. Braxton Weiss, Thomas Bressi, DJ Stagner all have multiple wins. They are 3 drivers. Then you have Matthew Thunhorst, Rob Ackley, Chuck Sweeting, Jacob Fife, Brad Patton, Justin Morton, Cody Griffin, and Justin Trombley. 11 different winners in 15 races. Goes to show this season has been all about the parity. Everyone has a chance, and Justin Morton looking to take his second bite of the cake. Gets the win tonight. Nick Tarbuck now going to see Jacob Fife looking low to defend in the hairpin. What can Fife do about it? He tries to keep it low, but now it's a switchback. Here comes Tarbuck coming down the main straight, and he's got himself a little bit more momentum coming across the stripe indeed. There goes Tarbuck. Moves into 8th spot. Jacob Fife, his big weakness so far has been holding on to those spots in moments like that where he crosses himself over. His defensive driving, well, he wasn't pressured more than anything about the mental game. There was no physical pressure, shall we say, no contact between those 2 drivers, and still, Fife gave up the spot. It's as simple as that. He made a mistake, and that's what it came to be. Blake Gordon's down to pit road again for the second time, so his 2-stop strategy going to cut him in 4 laps short. Not at all what he needed for a successful run tonight. Unfortunate, because Gordon seemed to have that top 10 speed, but just could not figure out the strategy, and that was all she wrote. And now Fife finds himself in 9th, and while he is ahead right now, Cody Erdman might be another driver who moves out of the top 10. Kyle Cooper now going to be side-by-side and door banging. Cooper's going to get loose, and he's going to keep himself together, but it looks like Erdman barely able to get away, so now Kyle Cooper going to hone in and put himself back into that competitive spirit. Let's see what he does now, as it looks like they're both going to be coming out of the same section together. This is the S's moving on to the hairpin. Don't expect Cooper to play all too nice here. I think both these drivers are going to be at each other's throats for the rest of this race. It's going to be 3 laps to go for the field this time by, and Cooper decides to lie back for now. He's going to give the first opportunity for Erdman to quickly get by. 2 more chances though, and I do not think that Cooper's going to hold that same attitude. Maybe going to be a little bit more risky in the coming laps as Erdman gets right up to the wall one more time, but nothing comes of it. Kyle Cooper now looking all over the place, looking high side and low, but still hasn't found the spot. Popsicle sticks this time by for your race leader. There comes Justin Morton with 2 laps to go, and Morton has been the man tonight from pole position. Dominant so far. 4 miles left in his conquest of Sonoma, California. Wow, look at Erdman going all the way to the concrete barrier there, looking to get some reinforcement to shoot him back down. Cody's got the edge in the carousel and the S's. It looks like now Cooper's going to have to lie back just a little bit more and try to get a little more of a run into the sweeping corners and back into that hairpin again to go for it one more time. Now, he'll actually have 2 more times from here because he's not necessarily with the leaders and is almost entirely off cycle. He'll be coming to 2 to go this time by while your leader is in the backdrop, and you saw him there briefly coming right through the same portion of track. Going to be Morton coming to the 1 lap to go signal this time by, and there's still going to be more laps of green for the drivers further on back. Brian McFerrin looking at Michael Stroll, and Kyle Cooper still there with Erdman. Wow, what a block that was, and Erdman is not going to make it easy. He effectively cuts off Cooper right at the point of no return. 2 laps to go for 2 of your fiercest competitors here. It looks like Cooper and Erdman are going to get caught up to by Michael Stroll. This time by 1 lap to go, and it's going to be Justin Morton coming by to take the white flag. Last lap. This race is official, and it goes caution-free. Erdman now going to see Kyle Cooper get much slower. Here comes Michael Stroll, and it's the number 3 going side by side, and Cooper's going to also see Brian McFerrin. All of a sudden, Kyle's going to lose several spots at once. Erdman able to hold on and fend off the spot, and now Michael Stroll takes a pass. The old Milwaukee number 73 and Kyle Cooper not going to be happy about that one and maybe looking for some retribution. 1 lap to go for your leaders, and as the field comes barreling down, this battle will continue for 1 more lap. Justin Morton is a ways ahead of the field, and he's looking to come down to the checkered flag in one piece as your race winner. Morton bested by 64 1/1000th of a second at Charlotte. What looked to be his best opportunity to get his 2nd win went up in smoke. It was a smoke show at the line, and he came through on a wrecker. But tonight, with 50 laps on the table, Morton has been the dominant man ever since the pole position. He captured it in qualifying. He led throughout the first stint, and the undercut was the move of the race. The ace of strategy and the ace of road courses this year, Justin Morton will come across the line to capture the checkered flag and win the Sears Point Grand Prix. Coming across for the podium this time by Matthew Thunhorst in 2nd and Braxton Nuis in 3rd. To end the battle further on back, keep your eyes peeled. It looks like Cody Erdman still has a load of drivers he's looking at. Here comes Kyle Cooper. Cooper down to the inside to get blocked, and he'll get hit. Cody Erdman going to feel that contact once over. This should be the 1 lap to go signal for these guys, and they've seen it. This is the home stretch, do or die. Michael Stroll has been able to get away into the top 10, so a huge upswing for Michael Stroll. And now, while he's away from the battle here, what's Cody Erdman going to do? Cooper coming in hot, and Erdman is loose. Now Kyle, looking for some room, is going to be forced up high. They'll be side by side to the final corner. Erdman is loose, and Erdman spins. He'll lose all of his positions, and now Kyle Cooper comes to the line. Chuck Sweeting spins, and almost 2 does Cody Smith. Cooper gets 11th, McFerrin 12th, and Cody Erdman barely beats Cody Smith back to the line. The Codys finish together as they started. I think it's now time to celebrate. Justin Morton gonna burn down the house. Kyle Brooks is coming right at him. Watch out. And the motor is gone. An anticlimactic end there to Justin Morton's day, and looks like just when you thought he was able to escape trouble, he finds it at the start-finish line. Morton wins today from Matthew Thunhorst second, Braxton Weiss in third, and fourth place. Then and there is Chad Mikus. What a run again for Mikus. It's his 7th top 5 of the season, and he has once again proven he has improved end over end in his fight for third in the championship. Thomas Bressie 5th in an overall disappointing day for him. He had that top 2 speed and just got loose in the first stint, and that set him back drastically. John Stevenson 6th, Nick Tarbuck 7th, and Blake Cannon 8th on debut, with Jacob Fife 9th and Michael Stroll getting away from the late race calamity to end in 10th. 11th place is Kyle Coopers, and Brian McFerrin goes 12th, with Cody Erdman 13th, Cody Smith in 14th, and Chuck Sweeting 15th. It's then Blake Gordon 16th and 17th to Vinny Tigner, Kyle Brooks 18th, and Boomer Logan 19th. Brandon Bernhardt position number 20. 21st spot on the order is then going to be Cal Filarski, and 22nd is Travis McQuistion, with Alan Rowell 23rd, Forrest Smith 24th, and Rob Ackley 5th, and the last driver on the board. Morton today, I'm sure he's been waiting for a chance to get back in victory lane. He got a taste at the Glen, and with how competitive this field is, once you get that taste, you never want to let go. Unfortunately for Justin Morton, I'll tell you this much, we didn't expect him to come back so quickly after what happened at Charlotte, but he has, and he is back in winning order once again. We'll get a word from all your top 3 drivers here in just a moment's notice. Stick with us here live on FTN. It's Morton, Thunhorst, and Braxton Weiss due up for interviews at the end of this fantastic race in Sonoma. And as we get with your drivers right now, the broadcast booth is going to be filled with your top 3. Let's first off get the man who got it done. Justin Morton going to do it once again. 2nd win on the season. You look to have gotten yourself real solid with these road courses after last year's performance at Monza, winning at the Glen, and this time around, dominance here in Sonoma, leading 40 laps on the day. And coming through on top in the Sears Point Grand Prix. Justin, how you feeling?
I feel really good. I would say I was dominance. Matt was really good on tires. I was really worried about him catching me there at the end. He had 2-lap fresher tires than me, and he was slowly gaining, and eventually he just used his stuff up a little bit too much. I love racing here. It's my home track, so I love running here. It's one of my favorite places to race in anything, really.
And it definitely showed tonight. We know you're one of the best drivers here when it comes to those road courses, and the things have really clicked as of recent for this team, it appears, just getting back into the swing of things. And we saw the performance at the Glen, and this time an opportunity at a different sort of road course. Not as simple necessarily, and it looks like it played to your strengths overall, even with that risky call to go for the undercut, which I believe ended up being the move of the race.
Yeah, it was pretty much almost identical to the call that I made at the Glen. I went for an undercut I thought it would be a little too early to go for it, but it seemed like it just was just enough. I got out to the lead that I needed to, and I could run my pace to not kill my tires. Like, I definitely killed him on that first run. Matt just closed right up to me after he was like 2 seconds back most of that run.
Able to make sure you had your stuff until the very end. Using it wisely seemed to be the name of the game. Back in victory lane and another 2-time winner here. We saw how close you were at the Oval in Charlotte, and came back quite quick here to get it done once again. So 2 road course victories so far. Got yourself quite a lot of momentum in this little stint we have before we move on to Michigan. Another big circuit, but that time around the left turns are coming up next. You think there's a chance to keep the good times rolling?
I feel like good times rolling. I'm definitely weaker on the oval side of things, but definitely try to put in a good effort every week at the race. it's such a good group of guys to race around, pretty much all the way through the field. So look forward to it.
And we're excited to see what is next as well. One thing we'd like to talk about before we let you go here is the track temperature scorching at almost 120 at its highest. Usually we don't see too much wear come into play for these Xfinity cars, but we saw noticeable differences in lap times today. Could you talk us through maybe the impact that had?
Yeah, those track temps were brutal. It's just the nature of the beast at racing at Sonoma in June. And plus the track's really old, so there's not much grip to begin with, even with a cooler track. So with the track temps up, I think I saw them at 118 was the peak, and it stayed at 118 most of the race. It was really hard to manage the tires because half throttle, second gear, getting out of the hairpin in some places, you would still be spinning the rears, so that just would eat through the tires. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened in my first run. It was also really tricky just grip overall. I was sliding 4 tires pretty much that entire first run, and yeah, it was really tricky conditions.
Managing the heat and all tonight, Justin, a very impressive performance for your second win here in 2024. Before we let you go, you have any final shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, first I like to shout out Gael at the end. It was completely incidental. He was trying to just launch the car. It was just, he wasn't trying to intentionally wreck me or anything. He's going on an apology tour right now. So, yeah, there's no hard feelings there for Gael or anything. Second, I'd like to thank teammates Matt and Bressie. Bressie was having a pretty rough time with his tire wear. He managed to stick through it in that first run and, come away with the top 5. But yeah, it was a good showing for all of us at JTM. Thanks to all the admins who run the league and do everything and, really run this tight ship in this league. I always look forward to racing here Monday and Tuesday nights. And thank you for doing the broadcasting. You guys do a fantastic job.
Justin, this time around, I know I missed the first win you had this season. Great to be with you here in the broadcast booth and watching from flag to flag in Sonoma. Checkered flag here goes to you in California. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Morton's going to be on the move, and up next, JTM, another 1-2 finish for the team that has been controlling the road course since 2023. And tonight, Matt, you thought it's your second week in a row getting a higher position than championship rival Braxton DeWeese. We're halfway through this title battle, and we haven't seen you on the podium in a little while, actually. It seems like we had you every week, for sometimes 2 days in the week, but it's been a little bit since you've been here. Great to have you back, though, Matthew. Second place here at Sonoma. How you feeling?
Yeah, David, it's been a tiresome stretch. I don't know, there's a lot of adjectives you can use to describe it, but it's just, there were races it's like, yeah, I've been good here, and it's just, I bragged about how I was having good luck at the start of the season, and then it's like, Lady Luck went, okay, you've had too much, turn off that switch, and then it's just, hey, what can go wrong here? And pretty much it seems like week after week that was what the case was, and it's just been dealing with things personally and all that, and so to kind of finally just have a good night here and no shenanigans or nothing, it was frustrating tonight because it was just like I could see Justin there and I was starting to run him down, and then I burned the rears off by the time I got him cooled down and feeling good again. It was just we were too equalized, and so it's just a little too little too late, but to come in really no practice before this and basically feel like I was slipping and sliding, like I was sitting there and I don't know, wearing some sort of something on ice and just looking like a fool, just flying all over the place, and then to qualify well and then just to race good and be making passes and looking kind of snazzy. It's a good feeling. It's definitely a regenerize or revitalize or whatever word you want to use. So it's definitely good to feel good to be back on the podium. I don't even know how to talk now because it's so good to be on the podium again.
We were expecting to see a lot good out of this team, especially with the road courses. JTM has been, bar none, the best organization at these circuits. And tonight, we saw a few more drivers that we haven't really seen making the rounds and fighting up there inside the top 5. I know we saw Thomas Bressie further on back fighting with Chad Mikas and some of the brand new guys like Blake Cannon coming in. But you kept yourself in the group with Justin and Braxton, and particularly Braxton, all throughout the night. I'm sure the championship's been on your mind as much as it has been Braxton's and ours here in the broadcast booth. So knowing how tight it is, I know that battle meant an awful lot.
Well, I mean, It does, but it doesn't. I mean, to me, it's just, I'm feeling good in second, and then just, there were, I think it was like USA, Dega is about where I lost. And if you kind of look at some of the nonsense that was happening there, to me, it's one of those I kind of just backed off, and kind of like tonight and with the road courses, it's, you want it real bad, but it's kind of like when I was trying to chase Justin down. You want it too bad, and then you just start making mistakes on top of mistakes. And so it's one of those, we're going to reset when we get to the chase. I kind of want some more wins, and, I just want to feel like I'm running good again. And so that's really the most important thing. I mean, once that comes back to me, then, if we have a chance to go at it with Braxton for the points lead, then it is what it is. But, we're just kind of at that point in the season where it's almost kind of like a midsummer slump for me, because we were hitting some tracks where I just wasn't doing good in mile and a half. And then you got Braxton that's just picking them up and putting them down. So, it is what it is. It's just, as of right now, it's just more of not making sure we slide and that, we fall back out a second. If we can keep it close and respectful to Braxton, we have a shot at the end of this regular season to go for it, then we go for it. But, as of right now, it's kind of like if I'm putting it to driving my passenger car, it's tear off the rear view mirror, let's just cruise, and let's see what we can get out of it. So,
All right, able to get out of it a second place finish. Before we head back to Michigan, back to the big ovals, and well, we've seen quite a lot from the ovals this season. A lot to speak of from the beginning to where we are right now, moving on to the second half and closing out this regular season. How are you feeling about heading back to Michigan there?
Michigan wasn't a bad track for me last year. I mean, I still had a strong finish despite some shenanigans going on there with some past drama. But, it's one of those tracks that I feel like if I can get a good run, I don't know if I'll be able to win, but, feel like definitely top fives there possible. And just again, like I've been saying, put strong runs together. And I know really I desperately want to get that second win, so Michigan doesn't have it circled, and I forget what's after that. But if it's Kern County, I know that's one that it's like after what happened at USA, I've got another short track I want it circled, but I know there's gonna be guys like Blake Gordon and the other short track stars that'll be there and be good. So, it's just take it 1 week at a time and see how it progresses, David.
1 week at a time, another podium finish here. Matthew Thornhorse back sitting inside the top three. If you have any final shout outs you'd like to make, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, David, I just want to thank, all the admins for the Ignite series and putting this on, and, all the sponsors that help us out. And kind of too numerous for me to remember right now. And, just everybody who races, feels like we were putting on a good one. We had a good snazzy show up in the top 5 and 10. So, and just all the fans who watch and everything, and hope they enjoyed it. And just thanks to you and everybody else at Fireball Talks for broadcasting us and helping us come to the fans. And, you know, uh, yeah, just a lot of thanks to those people. It's sometimes you take it for granted when you get a lot of podiums that, yeah, this stuff can come easy and you get to have an interview, and, just something like this. I'm happy to finally be back here. So, just thanks for everybody involved. And I'm glad I could kind of do this and kind of throw away real life for a couple hours every Monday night and come and have fun with these guys.
Tonight going as well as it possibly could there, running inside the podium from flag to flag. Second place for Matthew Thornhorst, and once again, we thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Matthew Thornhorst on the move. One more driver we'd like to speak to, and your championship leader getting the halfway points as well. Braxton DeWeese, 13 machine, comes through with a very solid top 3. Looks like about the best road course race you've had so far.
Yeah, most have. And I didn't really expect it, to be honest with you. We ran some pretty good laps in practice. Was second on the board, I believe. The track temp went up, so people came in. They couldn't really get any more faster laps. So we were around second, third in practice, and got a pretty good lap in qualifying and got second there. I was really, really happy with that. Didn't expect that, but we got it, and we planned for it, and we moved on. And we've got a pretty good start there. I felt like I kept it at around 44, 45 mile an hour, and then just went when the green went. So I don't really know how I got the jump there, but glad we could lead the first 2 laps there, and get a point for that, and stay around them leaders there. They got out a little bit, but reeled them back in on that first run, and having about 4 of us right there all racing for the lead was pretty cool. And it was about 3 or 4 of us, so that was pretty fun. And I was having a lot of fun, and I was really confident with what I had going on. So I just was hoping I could stay up in the top 3 and, just try to get whatever I could and, stay on track. I'm really happy with that, not making any mistakes and executing with what I needed to do. If I made any mistakes, they were very little that, just you can improve on and, just go to the next road course and try to get a little bit better. I think we're going to the Red Bull Ring over in Austria, so that's going to be my first ever race there. I still have to buy the track. I've raced it plenty on Formula One, so hopefully it transfers over pretty well. So, like I said, we're pretty stoked with a third place finish here.
Well, it looks like about your best road course finish, as we mentioned. We got to ask, compared to the previous 2 races we got of these twists and turns, you think something clicked tonight that helped you out?
I made some laps on Saturday or Sunday or Friday, somewhere over the weekend, and did a couple of changes with what you could change in the setup, and felt pretty good with what we found. So hopefully we can keep with it, and like I said, hopefully we could have a good finish at the Red Bull Ring.
And looking for that next opportunity. Now, the Red Bull Ring coming up on the schedule a little bit later. Up next directly is Michigan. So we'll head back to the ovals. Any thoughts about the race that's coming up next week?
Looking forward to it. It's one of the tracks that are relatively kind of close to me. We had to Indianapolis, I believe, this year, so that'll be the official home track for us, even though we're from Ohio. So that and Michigan are pretty much the 2 home tracks that I have with the leagues, depending on what tracks are on the schedule. So it's pretty cool to have both of them on the schedule this year, I believe, with Indianapolis as well. So, just ran a race there 2 weekends ago, I believe. So we're going to look at that a little bit and work from that and see what we can do next week here in Michigan.
All things said and done, Braxton, 3rd place on the day. If you have any final shout-outs you'd like to make, well, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, most definitely. Big shout out to Allen's Arts Images, Randy Allen over there, and Kelly Allen as well. We've been having some pretty good runs with them on the car, and looking forward to keep it rolling. So, I believe we gained a point on Matthew there after it was all said and done with the bonus points and stuff, if I did that all correctly. So, a gain on a road course with this competition is, you really got to be proud of that. So I am, and we're going to celebrate that like it's a win. So big shout out to Allen's Arts Images, having them on the car, huge supporters. So big shout out to them, like I said, and shout out to Bennett's Publical, Jane's on Main, Deweese Renovations, Boot 34 Diecast, Unrivaled Cinematography, Blaze Designs, as well as Evan Pineda Designs, Bully Dog Coffee Company. Like I say, you can get 10% off there if you want to get you some coffee if you use the code BRAX5 in the checkout. Helps everybody out, so it's pretty cool. He's allowing me to do that, so go check it out if you want to get you some coffee. And I appreciate you, David, for what you do and what you got going on over here at Fireball Talks NASCAR, and I appreciate everybody that tunes in and watches these races. I'm glad we could put on a pretty good race here for you, and hopefully we can keep it up for the rest of the year.
There we have it, coming through in the 3rd spot tonight, Braxton Deweese. We thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, and I also want to give a shout out to Interstate Ford. They're one of my biggest supporters, so big shout out to Interstate Ford. I appreciate you, David.
But Braxton Deweese on the way. We've gotten a word from all 3 of our podium sitters tonight. Braxton Deweese comes home 3rd, Matthew Funhorst comes home in 2nd, and Justin Morton gets it done. His 2nd win of the season and pulls through checkered flag for the number 9. With that being said, Sonoma is a track we were expecting to visit for a long while here, the first ever trip in the Ignite series, and if you like your Sonoma racing today, well, we should have a little bit more for you tomorrow. The Integrity Octane series is on a bit of a doubleheader with the Ignite series, and the second half of Sonoma could be pushed back just 1 week. Okay, here's the information you want to hear. Worldwide Technology Raceway is up next for the Octane series. Next Tuesday is the double section of Sonoma, the 2nd of the double, and that will be on June 18th. So mark your calendars, Sonoma will be back within 1 week's time. Nevertheless, we thank you all for watching tonight's coverage of the Sears Point Grand Prix. This has been presented from the virtual Sonoma Raceway on the iRacing Sim platform. Watching exclusive coverage of the Integrity Ignite series brought to you only on FTN. And if you enjoyed tonight's coverage, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing, and we hope you like what you saw tonight, tuning in, and we hope to see you for future broadcasts as well. Thank you all for watching tonight's coverage, and we hope you have a fantastic night.